Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am Brendan. That is Brandon. And we are getting together once again for, you guessed it, more draft evaluations. Guess what? We are 3 weeks away from the draft officially. 3 weeks from now, we will be hunkering down, getting ready to figure out how the balance of power in the NFL is going to change by top rookies. So, Brandon, how are you doing 3 weeks shy of the 2025 NFL draft?
I feel actually good. I've been at times in a spot where I felt like I've got to scramble through about 75 names through the last 3 weeks, and so I've done a pretty good job this year of getting things out ahead of the line, so you can just kind of slowly but surely grind through these guys a bit. So feeling good down the home stretch.
Yeah, I was planning out my video series because I do that primer series every year now, where I go through as many prospects as I can. And this year, I was actually kind of surprised. I looked at it and I was like, I actually have plenty of time. I actually can take days off. I don't have to rush through 800 people in one day.
Well, that's where we've done this for a couple of years. And so I know you even started going into where you were last spring or last summer. You were, I know, doing a couple of shows on looking at advanced prospects. So, you had your toe dipped in there, and I'm trying to do the same thing. I think the key is just get out ahead of it, as far as you can in advance. And then you're not in that position, but it's so much nicer because you can look at these guys so much more thoroughly.
Right. All right. So we've done quarterback, not a great quarterback class. We've done defensive tackle. I'd say a pretty good defensive tackle class. There's no Jalen Carter, but there are some good ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but probably about now. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, probably behind. We would go edge and probably running back here, but it's one of the topper. Defense tackle is one of the better positional groups in this draft.
Right. So today we're doing running back, and this is probably the strongest position we've done so far. It's one of the stronger positions this season. I think there's one or two that are better, but let me tell you something, man. And let me go ahead and address the elephant in the room here. This is not a great draft class to have when you don't really need a running back, but that is where the Seahawks find themselves at the moment.
Yeah, it truly is. I think this is probably one of the better running back classes we've seen in at least 10 years. And you want to be set in position up. I mean, ideally, Brendan, you'd like to have a general manager be looking out ahead of this when he's a year out to realize something like this might be coming and to be ready to go grab, one of those guys because you're getting a great value if you do. I still think this alone might cause them to be pressed to take one of these guys, Brendan, just because the value will be so good in one of these rounds.
Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, would you maybe do something a little exotic to try to force the issue a little bit? Maybe move one of the running backs that you have? Would you consider maybe sending a guy like Charbonnet to the Raiders? Would you consider offloading a guy like Walker for even like a 6th round pick? Would you consider doing something a little outside the bounds of typical to make it happen?
There's one scenario where, to me, the potential could come into moving Walker, which I won't spoil yet because this is going to be around the first guy that we're going to discuss, and I want to get a little bit of your thoughts with this as a back and forth on that general one. But I think that outside of looking at, that kind of prime talent at the very top of the draft as a potentiality, I think that the team's better suited to just hold on to Walker through the final year. I still do think that we can't look at Holani and be like, well, Holani's so good at as the 4th that we don't need to get the 4th. I think if John sees guys in the 4th round and onwards that he looks as significant upgrades over Holani, I think you make that move because the anticipation here would be, I think, that you're not really going to probably count on paying Kenneth Walker a contract extension at this point. I mean, he goes out and has a 1,400 yard season. Do you really want to spend that money? Do you really want to trust in that health for a guy that's been dinged up so very often here through his career? For the one season he was able to kind of put it together, especially when you could have a stable of running backs where you can just insert the next guy into there. I like that thought much more than paying running backs. I'm an okay guy with taking running backs high. I just don't like paying running backs. And so this is where you could get a little ahead of that, I think, Brendan.
Yeah, you got to be very special to be worth that second contract as a running back. You got to be Saquon. You got to be one of those guys. And I don't believe Walker's that, especially maybe he would be if he could stay healthy, but he can't.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you would have liked to have gotten a line in front of him too, and not as much penetration, and some of that's the cause of the pounding he's taken and caused him to get injured in that way. But it is what it is as a situation. The clock's running out, the sands of the hourglass are slowly trickling through, and soon enough you're not going to have any more club control over the guy here a year out from now. So I think getting ahead of that a bit is smart for a draft like this that's so loaded to the hilt with so many backs. You go in like the 4th round, you're into day 3 when you do it then. even 5th round, and you're getting such, to me, tremendous value, a guy that I think is probably going to be an upgrade over Holani alone, which at that point, that should be the driving force, I think, if anything there. Because you're also looking at long-term as, hey, this is a guy that can maybe be that starter a year from now, or at least spell Charbonnet when we need him to.
Right. So yeah, let's start talking about these running backs. And one thing, I did a Bleacher Report show last night. One thing that I kept stressing is that the focus for the Seahawks right now, maybe more than ever, should be getting the best player available at every pick. Because I don't think this team should be thinking Super Bowl at this moment. They shouldn't be thinking we're this one player away or we're this 2 players away. They need to be thinking about, how do we set ourselves up to be in the best possible position over the next 5 to 6 years? And that means maybe if things break the right way, you might take a running back high in this draft. And your immediate reaction might be to reject it, to say it doesn't really make sense. And what I'm trying to tell people is try to keep a very open mind here, because there is a scenario where spending an early pick on a running back actually ends up making sense, because I don't know about anybody else, I don't see this team going for it all this upcoming season right now.
I agree with that 100%. A value, especially at the top of the draft, needs to be the driving force. I'm speaking about 4th and 5th round picks. I think I'm slightly open to doing earlier there if the team's trusting in the value of the selection. But I think that your thoughts are right on this one, especially in my opinion, with taking a bit of the step back approach this offseason to what they've done with this team for the 2025 season, and let that continue to inform you, like you just said, and inform you in the way that you max out the value throughout the course of this draft and everywhere that you can possible. And that's going to include running back position, and not you just saying, hey, we are set, because you aren't set. You got a year out of Walker, you got 2 years out of Charbonnet, having to make a decision. So it is something where it's not a pressing need, but to stay in the value game, that's the way the value game works. It worked this way last year. You had multiple 3 techs on the roster, 3 of them, in fact. You still went out there and grabbed Byron Murphy. Mm-hmm. That's the way value drafting sometimes works.
Right. So with that in mind, for instance, let's say you're picking at 18, your pick comes up, and somehow, some way, the gods have come together on this one and handed you something as pretty and as unlikely as someone like Ashton Jeanty sitting there. Would you be able to resist that siren call? Would you be able to look at Ashton Jeanty, one of the best running back prospects over the last, I'd say, 15 years, at 18, and go, nah? Or are you snatching that up?
I've really gone back and forth on this one a lot, Brennan, because the mistakes the Hawks have made really currently with the running back situation is thinking the Stars can overcome a bad offensive line, and that's not been the case. And so you're going to potentially get yourself right back in that same kind of boat with making this first pick and bringing him on with this offensive line as it's set up. But then the more I gave this thought and let this kind of stew in my mind a little bit, the more I came back around to, there's only so many blue chip grades that I give out in every draft. And if I find myself sitting at 18, or like last year, Seattle was sitting at 15, and they believed that Byron Murphy was the best defensive player in the entire draft, and it wasn't a need, but that's what their belief was, I think you've got to stay a little bit true to that almost no matter what, a little bit. And it does come down to then, do you have a blue chip grade on Ashton Jeanty? Is he that guy that you just talked about? And I went back and looked through a lot of the first round guys that have been taken here over the last 10 years, Brendan, and there's definitely some variance on what you get from production from these guys when you go there. But then we come back to, but rather than being generalized here, what is the specificity about this guy that I think he's going to do? I think he falls much more in alignment to what he's going to bring productivity-wise, like a Christian McCaffrey did, like a Josh Jacobs type did. And I trust in the blue chip grade that I put on him. He's got so many elite traits to him that he brings with the elusiveness, explosiveness, also fast as hell, great contact balance. He's got moves. He's great out of the backfield in addition to that. To me, what he looks like when I roll it down to a bottom line is a LaDainian Tomlinson. He's 2 inches shorter and maybe about 10 pounds lighter than LaDainian Tomlinson, but they were almost exactly the same type of player in the way that they move and the way that they win out there on the field. And so I go, okay, am I going to turn down, and it's a shorter LaDainian, by the way, Brandon. It's not lesser LaDainian, just LaDainian with 2 inches off the top of him, in my opinion. And so I go, look, if that's the driver at that point, I go, I think that guy's better than what I have in Walker right now. And Walker's on the final year of his deal. The fans would probably freak out on this one a little bit, but I come down to like, this is just something that running through so many of these drafts and trying to learn lessons on the back of it. This is one that's been a hard learned lesson for me, which is just not a hard learned lesson, but one that's really stood out in recent years, which is just draft for value. That means you're not passing on blue chip players.
Yeah, and I want to be clear to people in the chat right now, because I know some people are talking about this. I don't think Jeanty will be there at 18. I seriously doubt it. What I'm saying is, I think there's a path. And if that path is taken, do you jump on it? And I think the answer is pretty clearly yes. I remember. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Just real quick on your point on this. It's really easy on this one to say he's not going to be available, but this is one of the most unpredictable drafts that we've seen in recent years as we approach this right now. We don't even know who the top 3 guys are going to be right now. By this time, most years, we at least understand pretty much who those top 3 guys are going to be. So, yeah, there's a better chance than not that Jeanty is going to go ahead of us, but there is a wide variance of opinion on Jeanty. And the fact that he comes out of Boise State doesn't help matters in regards to this with the level of competition at play here. So while it's not necessarily, I'd say, the betting odds favorite, there is absolutely a chance this guy could drift if there is this much differentiation of opinion when it comes to NFL circles, in the same way that it's been with the pundits here and how they talk about him. One guy today before the show I was listening, trying to say he's like Rashad Penny was the comp they were trying to make. I don't know if it was just because he was in the same conference and that's what they're trying to grab the comp, because they're completely different players, but just shows you how people are not quite clearly looking at this guy all the way down the line at times to me.
Yeah, Rashad Penny, if he was shorter and faster and had better vision and had better top, like you gotta layer on a lot of to get that.
And I've seen that with Jeanty, and usually it's in the negative way, Brendan, where they're layering on stuff that's really not applicable, or that they're trying to lesser him down as a prospect on the back of the comparison. And that's where I don't get it, because this is a guy that's a pretty straightforward, easy evaluation to watch on tape. I don't care whether it's Boise State or not. The guy's just got some freakish traits to him that I would trust in my football squad. And 21 years old, not an older prospect. Just to me, it's this one's kind of been made a lot harder by some than it should have been.
But yeah, he's pretty much everything you could want in a running back, man. The acceleration, he's got good speed, not elite, but you know, you're not going to have elite speed when you've got all these other traits necessarily. If he was, he'd be the number 1 overall pick, I think, or pretty much. Yeah. He's got good speed. He's got some power. He's got some elusiveness in the open field. He didn't do a lot of receiving last year, but the previous year he caught 43 passes. So I'm not that worried about him as a receiver. I know some people were like, Boise State didn't really use him as a receiver. But
they were trying to have him break records with rushing. So there was a little bit of, as the season went on, that they tried to take some of the load off of him because of how much load they were putting on him with, the carries.
Yeah, and that would be my one major concern with him, the fact that he took on such a big workload in 2024 that he might already have some tread wearing off. But that's actually kind of what I was afraid about. I remember with Marshawn Lynch when he came out, I was like, that guy plays so physically, he's not going to last in the NFL. And lo and behold, he was still playing in 2019, technically. So I don't know. Some of these guys, they're different. They're just they're built differently.
And if you're looking, if you get him with this guy that early, it's get him on the 4-year contract, whatever. You're getting him for the club control of 4 years and then making your decision after that. You're hoping you can maximize out some of the best production of his career in that time is the hope that you can do. And he should last at 21 years old enough there where he's not a 24-year-old guy that's been in college for 7 years and 3,500 carries or something, where it's like, holy goodness. But I think he's going to be fine on that.
Yeah. I know he's had some minor fumble issues in his career as well. And he could improve a little bit as a pass protector, but overall, I think your LaDainian Tomlinson comp is very good. And, this is not the first time we've made a LaDainian Tomlinson comp in the last couple of years. I remember Bijan, you were talking about him as an LT. How would you compare Jeanty to Bijan as prospects? Who do you think was better?
I think both of them do have the slight elements to LaDainian. I think Ashton's more purified LaDainian, and he's more of a natural runner. Whereas Bijan can be a little bit of a guy that's kind of a hybrid type between runner and pass catcher, and certainly a guy that can break tackles like nobody's business. I think that there's just a general pace and flow to the way that Ashton runs the ball. He's just got a bit better understanding in that, where he's more naturally suited. I think there's times maybe with Bijan where he can kind of feel like almost a receiver convert to the running back position in that respect, with that general feel of things. But that would be maybe the main differentiation to me between the two. just that real like low to the ground thing too, and that LaDainian had, and be able to just the bouncing off tackles is your lateral. Here comes the tackler. You're kind of moving lateral. The tackler gets into you and gets into you low. Somehow you're keeping your feet moving and still sliding, and you just slide off that tackle, and you make it an easy tackle break that so many other running backs would have to take a second there and stiff arm the guy down and maybe come to a stop. He can just kind of keep his meat. And that's that LaDainian part where it's just that flow state is always, they're always still flowing, even when there's a tackler on them, and still just kind of right up field suddenly like that. And it's kind of always hard to spot, like Marshawn, where it's just going to violently break the tackle. With them, it's more of just an angle and busting that bad angle on the tackle just right.
I remember last season, as the year went on and it became clear that Jeanty was about to do something historic, I would start watching the Boise State games, live when they were actually on TV. And it was crazy how often I would just turn on the TV and the game would be on. And within like 2 minutes of me turning the TV on, he'd break off a 60-yarder. It was almost like turning on a Warriors game and seeing Steph Curry shoot a three. It became so regular. It was like, this doesn't feel like anything I've ever seen before.
I felt the same way. And there's been so few backs in my lifetime that I can come back of and think of that were like that a little bit. Obviously, Barry back at Oklahoma State was a lot like that. Sanders. But there's been a couple of those guys. Marshall Faulk was that way at San Diego State back in the day where you turned him on. It's just like, holy moly, another big play. And this guy's been that way too. Adrian Peterson was this way at Oklahoma, where just you turn on, there's another big play. Wow, this is definitely going to work at the next level. And that's where I've simplified this one down to where I sense so much complication from some folks on Jeanty and getting a little bit, to me, lost in the forest despite the trees, where this is a pretty easy evaluation from the running back position, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a top 10 player in this draft, even with the devalued position. If the Seahawks had their pick at 10, I would still pretty happily take him at 10 if he's there.
There's only about 6-7 blue chip guys I have in this draft, Brendan. So if you get an opportunity to grab one of those guys, that's how you ultimately make the best team, is by adding difference makers. And the thing that what did everybody say about us last year over and over again? People on the outside looking in, guys like Tony Gonzalez. Where's the difference makers on this team? We're the superstars. We're the not just good, solid guys, but we're those true difference maker types. We got to add those. We need those guys to elevate from the youngsters, but we need more of these from somewhere or another at this point.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that is your ironclad first rounder right there. Yeah. So let's move along to our next candidate here, and this is the other guy who's currently being projected as a first-round pick, Omarian Hampton, the Tar Heel, another 21-year-old. Measured out pretty darn good. He's got good size, 221 pounds, tested a little bit better than I think people expected. He showed some speed. He showed some explosiveness. So every big board that I use, except for CBS, has him going in the first. Are you buying it? Do you think that Hampton belongs in that first round area?
I think he will go in the first, but Brendan, I don't think that he necessarily should. The production is pretty incredible over the past 2 years, 3,000 yards, 500 yards receiving, 30 touchdowns. I mean, that's wow. The guy is, not going to be necessarily an artful type of runner. He's really efficient. He wants to get downhill. There's some kind of Jonathan Taylor-like vibes in the, I want to go live in the A and the B gap at times, where I'm trying to go do my damage. And he's a handful when he's coming downhill at you. Guys, he's probably one of the few running backs I've seen on tape this year in college, Brendan, where you can feel when he's into the middle of the field, getting downhill, and those safeties are coming up, where guys are making business decisions with this guy on a college football field. And so he's definitely a lot to handle. The weight is legitimate with him, whereas a lot of these guys we're going to talk about, it's like 205. This guy probably plays up around more 225. I think that there is some limitations to his game. I don't think he's a very big vision guy, in that, he needs to have the hole open up, and that's where he's going to go. And it's just, like I said, not artful. He's just going to get down and be a blunt force trauma kind of instrument out there on the football field. And while he is a tackle breaker in certain ways, I don't think he's a pure tackle breaker in that he gives you very many moves in the open field to break those tackles. It's all just basically got to come off contact balance. Guy comes in and waylays him, and he's just big enough and tough enough to withstand that, bounce off of it, and just sort of keep getting upfield. But that's where, to me, I see a little bit of limitations, where it's like, if I'm taking the guy in the first round and he needs kind of the hole opened up for him, and is a bit of a grinder, that's the part where I wonder a little bit with that. But no doubt about it, he's efficient, no wasted motion, attacks the hole at 100 miles an hour. He's going to get downhill. He's not worried about you hitting him or he's just going to get after in that way. This is the kind of back, Brendan, that can wear down defenses over the course of the game with having to tackle this kind of guy. My comp for him was a DeMarco Murray, former Dallas Cowboy running back, was the guy that I kind of saw in him. A little bit higher, a little bit of a higher running style like Murray had, a little bit, not as much down low behind the pads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree with most of the stuff you're saying here. I think I would put him in the first round, but barely. I think it's really, really close. So, but everything you said is true. He's a runaway freight train. He's a runaway freight train once he gets going. But like a runaway freight train, he doesn't really turn that well, right? Maybe he's like a runaway garbage truck with the steering cut. You're not turning that wheel. He's just going to go. Yeah. And there's something to be said for that. He's very powerful, got great contact balance. He's also a pretty good receiver out of the backfield. He's not just a complete blunt instrument. Even though I do think that he's pretty good at beating backfield penetration by laterally cutting when he first gets the ball. So before he gets going, he can make cuts. I'll say that much. And yeah, you're right. His vision isn't great. He just he's a one-track player. Doesn't do great in pass protection as near as I could tell. Kind of does the thing where he runs up the back of his blockers a little bit because he's overly aggressive, I think. And the way he plays, he takes abuse. So you have to wonder how long this is going to last in the NFL. Maybe that's fine for a rookie deal, but it is worth noting that I don't know if this guy's going to be playing at a high level in 5 years. It's just, he takes such abuse.
Yeah, I could see him being a guy that wears down like that because, again, he's not evading any guys trying to tackle him either, right? He's going to take every hit. He's going to take every tackle attempt and take it right on the nose. And so that's definitely a part that could pop up into here. And I come back to, again, that sort of, Jonathan Taylor deal, similar kind of players where they're just trying to efficiently get downfield as quickly as they can. They don't want to get really laterally. They just want to get upfield. But the thing you had with Taylor taken at the end of the first round, it's like a 1-4-6 10-yard split. So he gave you that efficient running style that wanted to get in the A gap, and he wanted to get there, and he was going to get there as fast as any running back in the league with that burst at 1-4-6. This guy to me is more of in that 1-5-5 to 1-6 10-yard split kind of range of things. So burst-wise, doesn't quite have that same sort of get up and go that Taylor had to operate into such a condensed space as a running back for how you do your work.
Yeah, his combine was 1.54, and that's with no pads on. So yeah, pretty much.
So it's 1.54 ain't bad. It's just that's what Taylor, he's not an outside zone guy. He's not a stretch guy. He's not really a pitch guy. You can throw that as a counter at defenses with a Taylor guy, but you want him going at it then this guy's the same way. You want him getting downhill between the tackle boxes. But at the point, you need that the better the burst at that point if you're that kind of running back. And 1.54 is good, but 1.46, of course, is like smoking. And that was still a guy in Taylor that then went at the end of the first round with similar kind of production to a DeMarco Murray.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. God's Gang, thank you for the $5 super chat. I really like Golden. More I watch his tape, I feel his stock could rise a little by draft day. I feel he would be a solid pick there if Grant was gone. So this is a wide receiver, of course. But yeah, let's we haven't done our receiver stuff yet, but I've done my receiver work privately. And I know you've looked at Golden a lot as well because we've talked about him before. So are you a fan of Matt Golden at 18 at this point?
Yeah, I am. I have him as the number 2 wide receiver in the draft. You get a little worried about the fact that it sort of took him his whole college career to have this final season where, he finally was able to have it all click into play and light it up. I mean, that's a little bit, worrisome where you're only getting really the 1 year of production. But last year in Xavier Worthy, you had a guy that, tested out very similar to the times of Golden, and Worthy was, not the route runner, not the contested catcher, did not have his good size, did not have his long arms. There's a variety of skills I think that Golden kind of brings that actually supersedes Worthy, whereas with Worthy, you can basically say, well, he's faster a little bit by a smidge. And that guy went in the first round, late. So this guy going at 18 to me is completely fair value at that point.
Yeah, I got close to being okay with Golden 18. I couldn't quite get there, but I'm probably close enough to where if it happens, I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm just going to be like, okay, sure. That's fine.
Yeah, he's not going to be the one that I'm pumping my fist like we got him. It's going to be more like, okay, that's fine. But I'll tell you, it's we're getting a lot of talk of guys like Emeka Egbuka, for instance. I like it way more of Golden at 18 than Emeka Egbuka, which I just don't understand at the slot spot.
Yeah, I think the Egbuka thing is more about just like the Ohio State connection with JSN or something than it is actually anything that makes sense on a football field. That how would that even begin to work with Kubiak as the play caller? It doesn't make any sense.
I've been getting in battles in recent week on with my chat at times on this because people are pushing back against me against this heavy, Brendan. But I just feel like nobody's really qualifying why this is the new model. You know, everybody's going, well, it's you can have all slots now. This is the new model in the NFL. But based on what? Where what track record are we pulling this from? Because it just feels like people are kind of pulling out their wazoo right now, and it doesn't actually fit the historical norms. It's people like liking a player, so they want to force him in and make him fit. But that's more to me of jamming the circle into the square peg more than it is that that's a guy that fits to what you need offensively.
Yeah. So I think Golden would be fine. He would not be my favorite, but I could certainly live with that. I think it would be a good enough pick. And I do think that receiver is going to be a very dire need in the near future here because I don't think anything we have is long term except for JSN.
Yeah, agree. Especially outside receiver right now. I mean, that's where the big need. That's why I push on this as well. Is that it's a need and it's outside that you need X and a Z. And this guy could play Z all day long, maybe a little bit of X, and bam, you got a bit of need filled in, and he can come in rotationally in the rookie year if you need him to come in there. And just good, solid player. Maybe there's some questions about ceiling with him, but I think you're at least getting a pretty good floor with him.
All right. So now we're bumping on down to about the second round in the world of draft pick projections here. And we're going to go with kind of a twofer here, a Buckeye twofer, a national championship twofer. We're going back to back with a couple of Buckeyes here. Let's start off with Trayvon Henderson of the Ohio State Buckeyes. 22, measured out, pretty good at the combine. Testing numbers were nice, very explosive. A little bit on the smaller side, barely over 200 pounds. Currently projected as a middle second round pick. What's your take on Trayvon Henderson?
Fast, athletic back, able to change direction, nearly going full speed. He has a go-to move where he just comes to a complete stop after going full speed and then changes direction. Not a jump cut, but just a stop and then right back up to full speed after taking a sudden turn. He uses this on the back of his patience as a runner, not just a pedal down guy. Big play machine with 55, 10-plus yard runs over the past 2 years alone. There is a little bit of back and forth with him where there's times he can easily be brought down, other times where he's able to extend yards after contact. So it's a little bit of hit or miss with him where it's like sometimes an arm tackle can rip him right down. When he runs, he kind of looks like a priest going through a room blessing people, Brendan, or it's also a little bit like Captain Jack in Pirates of the Caribbean when he runs. It's a little bit of the same sort of running style up on the toes and kind of, a little bit of that going on. What's going to help him out and really what's going to allow him to be drafted minimum second round and even a possibility of a chance of a first round is that he's one of those guys like we see in some of the other places in this draft where the presence of this player is going to allow you to be picked higher. This guy that was picked a draft before, 2 drafts before, who had a lot of success will now allow you to be elevated up further than maybe you would have if that guy hadn't existed. And Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy that I'm talking about here. His testing numbers and all of that is very similar along to Jahmyr Gibbs. I do think Gibbs is a better player. There's a little bit more weight on Gibbs to me. I think he's a little bit more explosive of a guy than Trayvon, though their testing numbers were very close. But I think that what you saw with Gibbs going all the way up in the middle of the first round with Detroit a couple of years ago, that's not going to do anything but diminish this to help this guy's value out. And if he becomes a first round running back, don't be surprised, folks. And it's really that we see this in recent years where guys will get elevated because of other guys that they look so closely aligned like, and they go, that guy's that guy. So let's grab him earlier than we would have a couple of years ago. And I think that's going to be the key here with him. The other part to not be undersold here that could help to really solidify his value is there is not a better pass protector in this draft at the running back position than Trayvon Henderson. He erases blitzers. He is violent. He is mean. He will stick his head in there, and he doesn't care if you're bigger. He doesn't care if you're a defensive tackle. He will light you up, and it stands out versus anybody else in this draft. So, fair minimum, you're getting one of the most dynamic third down backs in the league. You're probably getting a Jahmyr Gibbs in and out rotational back type guy, though, as a bottom line.
Yeah, usually I feel like when you're looking at running backs in the draft and you're trying to find the one that is the best at blocking, it ends up being some 5th round guy from Notre Dame with like a 4.7 40, and like that's all he's good at. Not this year. Not this year.
No, it makes no sense. He's as good as he is because he's not a big guy, but he will freaking go in there and decleat people. I mean, it's his highlight package, just his running highlight package has about like 8 of his pass protection blocks on it, which you never see that with top end running backs.
But yeah, he's got the speed. He's got hands to be a good back out of the backfield, I think. And by the way, when you look at his production, it's not going to be that high. Remember, he was in a true 1-2 punch in Ohio State. They really balanced out their backfield usage over at Ohio State. So he was never going to have like 2,000 yards in a season or anything like that. That wasn't realistic. Good lateral cuts, good vision on stretch plays. He doesn't fumble. Like you said, great pass protector. I don't think he's quite as effective when he's in traffic. I think that when he's actually in like the thicket of defenders, he struggles a little bit more. He's much better in open field, making people miss when there's a lot of space. He is also a little bit lightweight, so you have to wonder how much some of this stuff will translate to the NFL. But I ended up coming very close to putting him in the first round. I couldn't quite do it because I'm not convinced he can take on a full NFL workload. But I really like his skill set. I'd go early second round on him and not look back on it.
I'm early second as well with him. I think you're feeling pretty good about what your bare minimum you're getting away from him, and there's some real upside there too. But I think the thing you said is true. You worry a little bit of lightness. He can have arm tackles, take him down. You want to get that guy into space a little bit more. That's where Gibbs can run a little bit more, to me, heartily between the tackles. A little bit more of a guy can be like a receiver in Gibbs coming out of the backfield. So it's not a perfect comp, but there's enough echoes there to drive him.
Do you think that comp could maybe even drive him to be a first round pick because Gibbs was 12th overall?
Yeah, because if you're a playoff team in the late 20s and you're looking for a playmaker on just third down alone, I mean, that's boom. You know, I could see a lot of playoff teams feeling like our roster is pretty well set. A Baltimore Ravens team, for instance, suddenly, I don't think they typically go this route, but hey, we'd like to have a little third down back. We use an outlet guy here for a Lamar, or a Buffalo Bills team, maybe they're going to move off of Cook potentially if he wants $20 million this offseason. I think one of those playoff teams could easily end up looking to target him. The pass protection is what seals it. Because if he was a third down back that's just a guy out there pass catching and whatnot, Brendan, that'd be maybe not enough to do it. But when you throw all this stuff together and then that he is an absolute demon as a pass protector, that's enough to get teams' attention and maybe push him up just that little bit extra more.
All right. So now we got to go to the other Ohio State back. We got to go to his backfield buddy here, Quinnshon Judkins, 21 years old, a little bit bigger than Henderson, 221, tested pretty well, decent speed, really good acceleration, monster explosiveness. He broad jumped 11 feet, which is out of this world for a running back. Big boards, again, mostly have him in about the second round. That's where the aggregate has him. Similar to Henderson, he's had good but not stellar production because he shares the backfield with another really good player. But let's sift through that now and try to understand how good the player is. Where are you taking Judkins?
There's a little bit of like Hampton here, I think, to him in certain respects as a guy. Mr. No Nonsense, downhill back, leans on better than average burst, good speed and good agility for a running back prospect. So just has all goods there where there's not really a deficiency there athletically within him. Solid vision. In addition, he's not in a rush to get to the hole downhill kind of back. He'll sometimes be a little bit patient and stutter his angle. He's not a dancer. He's not going to hit you with any kind of open field moves whatsoever. He does have a stiff arm of death that he baptizes victims into the underworld with. And occasionally he can use a pretty tight little spin move. But other than that, he's just going to constantly press up the football field. The stiff arm can be brought down when he's lateral, trying to get pursuit, or when he's laterally just trying to get the pursuit at bay, or when he's in tight corners and he's just got a little short punch to it. So he really does lean on that stiff arm as a big part of his game, and he can use it in a variety of ways. Average as a pass catcher. I think he's currently slight liability in pass protection. No doubt he will finish runs, and he does tend to fall forward. You love that about him, especially at his size. He's kind of in the way, I certainly think he's going to translate to the NFL. Another guy that's a little bit of like Henderson, there's a high floor to him, but for different reasons of Henderson. I think he can go in there and be a grinder back for any kind of team out there. This is, to me, kind of a San Francisco 49er kind of back that they would tend to look for. Explosive, hard to bring down, can get to the spot where he wants you to get to in the timely basis. Don't mess around. Don't do a lot of dancing. Perfect kind of zone runner for the scheme and what you ask those guys to do. But it also little bit into that place that you get sometimes of being robot-like. So depends on the scheme, and certainly our scheme would be a kind of fit for this one, though I don't think we'd look to target him. I have him in the 3rd round, though, because of that, Brendan, where pass catching, pass protecting, lack of the vision's okay. Not many open field moves. He's kind of not a one-note guy, but maybe he's only got a couple of strings on that guitar in what he does. And he does them really good. He plays those strings really well. He'll give you some pop songs on the back of that, but you're not going to get slow hand Clapton either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think he's got a little bit more in the open field than you seem to, but the idea is the same. He's more of a power back, more of a short yardage back. I think he's great in short yardage, which is awesome, but he's not going to give you much as a receiver. Sometimes I think he plays into contact more than you would like. He just tries to be a bowling ball, and I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing for him to be doing all the time. Doesn't really have top line speed. He has a good speed, but not great speed. He's not going to convert a lot of those long plays into really long plays. And I do think that on non-short yardage situations, he dances in the backfield a little bit. I will say he tested better than I thought he would. I don't think he'll ever be like a bell cow back, but I don't know if a bell cow back is even really a thing in the NFL anymore. We've really moved away from that. So I'd say late 2nd round would be about where I put him. I think the testing pushed him out of the 3rd round for me, but I'm still like late 2nd.
Wouldn't shock me to see him go there, and a team like the Niners in the late 2nd to grab him. If that, I'd say I could see that all day long with this kind of team in their background of backs. You talk about, how is that not a team that loves to spin through 2-3 backs at times? I know with McCaffrey they've got a little centric around him, but throughout Shanahan's time there, historically he tends to have 2 to 3 guys that he wants to kind of rotate on in through there, all explosive, all it's like Isaac Guerendo, same kind of little bit of the running style with that in that same way.
I think Guerendo was really, really fast though, right? He was like a 4.3 guy.
They're different backs, but they're because you're right. Guerendo's more of a I'm going to run away from you guy, and Jenkins is more of a I can run away from you, but I'd prefer to almost run you over guy. But just that explosion and really they're not creative runners is what I'd say. They really, really want the thing to just be tell me where to go and I'll go there really hard. Whereas there's a lot of backs we'll have that'll be like, hey, I can figure it out. Give me a chance to use my vision and cut back, and I can bring a lot to bear if it's not necessarily there through the premeditated hole. And this is a guy to me that's a premeditated hole guy a little bit with that.
Let's see. Sean Collins, thank you for the $5. You guys rock. Well, thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you.
That. Mm-hmm.
Very kind of you, say.
And we try. We
do indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if I have the best draft content on YouTube. I probably don't, but I do think I may have the most. I pump out this stuff like crazy. Hundreds of hours.
Well, and we love to do it, man. I mean, that's the thing about doing this stuff is that I love this time of year. It's a separate side of football. It's a side of football that, the research we do on this helps inform us on players down the line when they get to the NFL and we've got a background on them. To me, there's so much benefit in doing this from our perspective of this and just informing us and educating us on this just alone. Say nothing to the content side of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's actually the end of the 2nd round prospects as of the projection right now. Not to say that there can't be other guys that go in those first 2 rounds, but now we're on to guys that are projected to be 3rd round picks as of right now. And we're going to go ahead and start off with an Iowa Hawkeye here, Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson of Iowa, 22, pretty big. One of the taller running backs you're going to see, actually. 6'1", very tall for a running back. Pretty slow. Definitely doesn't. Speed is not really his game. Definitely more of a sizable running back. But what do you see with Caleb Johnson? Are you a fan of what he brings to the table?
Not a big fan of him. He's been sort of dwindling a little bit on my boards. I had him as high as the 3rd round. I've dropped him down to more mid-4th at this point, Brendan. He's got a little bit of some echoes in his game to Trey Benson, the kid last year that was taken out of Florida State by Arizona. Smooth, upright, slide and glide kind of runner who works off burst and speed. But like you said, what he'd have test 4.7 40. So you're not getting it's good play speed, but he ain't like some of these other guys in the draft running back position in that explosiveness or the long speed. He has longer strides than other backs in this draft. He is a little bit higher cut, Brendan. And when we say higher cut, of course, we're talking about having the bigger legs. And what that does is that if you have those longer legs like that, and especially at the running back position, that can impede you when it comes to change of direction, which is to me kind of something that stands out with him. He counters this with a really good forward lean. I mean, he kind of leans into what he is, and that he's going to get downhill guy. A little more patience with him because they run a lot of outside zone where they give him a chance to sort of pick his way through which hole he wants on those, for some of these other backs like Judkins and Hampton, where it's just a lot of mainly getting downhill with that. I think he's got really nice vision. He can set up his blocks, but he's not a freelancer in that way. It can sometimes almost look like when he gets so much on his toes that he's almost can appear sometimes to be stumbling a little bit, but it's just him trying to really, in my opinion, lean on that forward lean and be able to take contact and keep going forward if he has to, get somebody into his legs or something like that. He does go where the hole is assigned. He's not going to do anything really creatively out there in that. I don't think he's going to really be breaking many tackles in the backfield at all. If you get penetration, this is a guy that has to be a get up and go guy, meaning that you need the hole created. He needs to have his 3 yards to get up to speed. And if you get a guy penetrating in the backfield, he's taken down every single time. So there's no ability, he's going to be the opposite of guys we've seen with, Charbonnet and Walker times where it's like they can give you the best 1 yard carry you've ever seen in your life. This guy's not going to be that type of guy. So I'm not really sold as much on him, man. Only one real year of top end college production, Brendan. I'm going to need you to kind of sell me on this, guys. There are a lot of people a lot more higher on him than I am.
Yeah. I like his vision. I like his patience. I think he also has good tempo with his running. Like he can kind of lull a defender to sleep with his pacing and then break past him using, it's like a tempo runners, the way they usually call it. I think he's a smart player. I think he's a pretty good receiver out of the backfield as well, at least in terms of talent. Production hasn't totally been there yet. But he's kind of a contradiction of a player. He's really big, but he doesn't really feel like he uses it. I kind of feel like when you contact him, he crumples. Yeah. Maybe he plays standing straight up a little too much, and that allows him to just kind of get chopped down too easily. Pass protection, not there yet. Doesn't really have sharp cuts, doesn't have the ability to really have open field agility. And overall, I just don't think he's a very physical player, which is disappointing because he's 225 and he's not fast. So I don't know. I'm going to proceed with a little bit of caution here. I've ended up putting him in the middle, lower third round. And I don't even know about that completely. I'm a little bit confused by how this guy works. He looks like a power back, but he doesn't really play like one. So I'm just a little bit confused,
Yeah, that's where I landed. And I was in the mid third for a long time with him. I went back before we did the show on a lot of these guys and just another last go through on them. I've already had a couple of looks, but let's get another last go through. And some of the deficiencies in his game started to show up a little bit more for me. And then thinking about that 4.7 40 time when watching him starts to track a little bit more closer to the tape when you consider it.
All right. So, yeah, that's Caleb Johnson. I don't think either of us are big fans, but he certainly belongs in the NFL for a while, I guess, at least.
As long as that speed can hold up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another third round projection here. And this is one that a lot of Seahawks fans talk about. This is one that a lot of Seahawks fans really circle the wagons around. Cameron Skattebo. Cameron Skattebo of Arizona State, the Wildcats. Or, no, wait, are they the Sun Devils? I can't remember.
Yep.
I can never remember which is which.
Wildcats are Arizona State.
Yeah, okay. All right, so 23 years old, short but squat. He's definitely one of those bowling ball type running backs. Definitely, the ones that are very small in stature, but if anything, that makes them more dangerous because they have so much weight to them. Very explosive at the combine, jumped almost 40 inches on his vertical. Mostly projected to be about a third round pick, or some have him creeping up into the second. How do you feel about Skattebo when he makes the jump to the NFL?
Combination of just pure effort and power with tough grittiness. He wants you to kill him before he'll go down, and he's also looking to dish out punishment in the open field. Very violent runner, near, not quite to the place of a Jeanty, but near elite contact balance. He has short, choppy steps that give him good change of direction. He can work off that vision and patience, choosing his timing to engage, getting downhill. Got over 4,000 yards rushing and almost 50 touchdowns in his college career. Had another 500 yards receiving out of the backfield this last year. And it just feels like a mismatch when you align him against a linebacker. He's just going to smoke that every time. I do worry about his size being where he's listed at, and if he won't be able to fight through tackles as well at the next level. It feels a little bit of something like where he's able to lean on that part of his game, Brendan, heavily at the college level, but once guys get a little bit bigger at the NFL, I don't know if he's going to be able to play that way. It's a little bit of back to that, if you're going to be that Marshawn Lynch kind of back, you need more 225, 230-ish rather than feeling like you play more at 210, 215. It's only 15 pounds, but I think it can make a bit of a big difference on some of these backs and their ability to really extend runs and fight through those tough tackles. He doesn't have many open field kind of moves to free himself, and he's probably slightly below average speed-wise. This is something I wrote before we saw this testing times come out with him, Brendan. I believe he's at a 4.65 40. So not particularly fast on that way. I do have some pass protection concerns with him as well. If you're thinking him as strictly a third down kind of running back, I don't think that's going to necessarily work for him. I think he's a rotational back in this league, Brendan. I think he can be effective in that rotational basis through there, but I don't see a bell cow. I don't see a guy worthy of being second, third round selected, 4.65. He does have the explosiveness, quickness part shouldn't be undersold because that's part that is there, is evidenced by the vertical leap and stuff. You feel that with him on tape, where there is some short area explosiveness, but there is some stuff that's to the negative side on top of the plus side. He's not a Marshawn Lynch with some of the comps that we're hearing posted with him on that. Some echoes there a little bit, but not quite fitting to that mark. Where do you stand?
I like him. I am aware of some of the issues here. I am aware of some of the problems here. That low center of gravity stuff is always great, right? It makes you think a little bit sometimes of like Maurice Jones-Drew just without the upper end speed. Now, upper end speed's kind of important when you're talking about a running back, of course. He's got a big burst. He's got explosion for sudden movements. He's good at churning through tackle attempts. He can catch out of the backfield really well. He can evade backfield leakers with his cuts. Let's see here. What did I have? Little careless with the football. Not really good in pass protection, and he has a lot of plays that other running backs would turn into like 80-yard runs that he ends up turning into like a 15-yard run because he doesn't have the breakaway speed. Takes a lot of punishment as well. This is really a guy who could end up lasting like 3 years in the NFL before his body breaks down. I could see that easily. And I think his cuts are a little bit sticky. While I don't think they're bad, I think he's a little bit slow to accelerate out of his cuts. Like it's like more like a segmented process rather than just a smooth cut and go. So I think he's really fun. I think he can be a 3-down back that can be a pain for opposing defenses, but he's clearly a change of pace back in the NFL. He's clearly meant to be a secondary back. So I think early third round is about right for him personally. I think early third round would be fine as long as you keep him in his lane. You'll get about that much value for him. I feel okay there.
Yeah, and I dropped him down just a little bit because I think it's with this draft is where it's at and how strong it is. The running back position is that if you have a couple things within it, I got to ding you down just a little bit with that because there's so many backs in this draft that are so good partially with that. And if I look at recent historical markers, again, guys going the third round with a 4.65, a 4.7 40. I don't think that we've seen a lot of running backs in recent years that have gone in that place in the draft at that speed.
Right. But he is fun. I understand the appeal. I know some people are saying you could turn him into a fullback. I don't know about that. I know that's been kind of the excitement. I'm not sure I see any running back in this class being fullbackable at the moment. Maybe I'll change my mind as I look at more guys.
I agree with you. I don't think that there's the fullback in the draft at the running back position with it. There's a couple of other skills you want with the fullback position that I just don't think Skattebo's quite got. The blocking, is this guy going to decleat guys in the hole as a run blocker? No. As a pass catcher, he's okay. It's not like you take a Fannin guy and you move him to fullback. You love the mismatches you can draw with him as a fullback as a pass catcher. I don't think you're feeling like you're getting many mismatches with Skattebo in that way unless you can get him with a linebacker. But if you give him a corner safety, like those guys are going to cover him up. He's not getting free with him.
Yeah. Willie Lampkin's going to be the best fullback in this draft.
I like that too, man. And I'm with it.
Yeah.
6th round. Why not take a flyer at that point on him?
Absolutely. Let's see here. We got another third rounder on deck here with Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson of the Tennessee Volunteers. Very young, going to be 20 when the season starts. When the season starts, he will still be 20. Very small back, 200 pounds flat, 5'8". Very much one of these mini running backs. Mostly projected to be about a third round pick, like I said. Had good production last year for the Volunteers, 1,600 offensive yards and 22 touchdowns. How are you feeling about Dylan Sampson when he makes the jump?
Determined downhill runner, good burst, really low center of gravity, quicker than fast, picks the hole and presses the action. He's really good about being able to bounce off contact and find a clearing. Some guys take that hit, especially in the hole, Brendan, and it just kind of brings him to a standstill. But he can sort of take that kinetic energy and be able to sort of absorb it and bounce it off, like the superhero stuff where the guys suck in the energy and then they can shoot the energy into a different place, like that X-Men movie, the one guy who could do that, Kevin Bacon, when he did that move, or just with the grenade. I don't know if you saw that movie, but obscure reference. But he's a little bit like that off contact.
Yeah, X-Men First Class.
That's First Class. Yeah, he's like that, where it's just like he takes that bounce and he's able to use it with that kinetic to actually free himself up and let him get going up the football field. Really good vision. Used really well-timed cuts in the open field to extend runs. He absolutely just punishes safeties coming down with bad angles from the second level. If you don't come down at the right angle with him, he is going to shake you, and he's going to do it very subtly, quite frankly. But I watched him over and over again when he would get free, just be able to extend runs off where the safety really should have come down and be able to clear the tackle and finish it up. But he's like, I'm gone. I'm already out the door. Has a long way to go in pass protection. Hands are just okay. I think that you mentioned at the top of this, a part of what gets me so intrigued with him is that I think he's every bit explosive and close to being as complete as any of these other guys who might look at around the third round, at least from my perspective of this. But you're getting the guy at 20 years old walking in the league. And you mentioned about the lightweight, which is valid. But I also look at that guy at 20 years old and I'm like, can he add 15 pounds in the next 2 years? When he's 22 and adds another 15 pounds of muscle and grows into his grown man body, is that an even better player at that time than the one I'm seeing here on tape? And I'm kind of doing a little bit of that extra math on this one, Brendan. I am, because we don't tend to see guys come in the league that is this young. And I tend to think that NFL teams will do somewhat of the similar math with them. We saw this with even Jonathan Brooks last year with Texas, guy that had an ACL injury coming out of college, but still was taken because partly I think he was so young. And I think the NFL, like I do as well, you get caught up a little bit in that guy. Well, at 20, he's already doing this. What if here at 23, 24, versus some of the prospects we look at that are 24 coming out, Brendan, that you're like, well, finished product, there's not really anything left to grow here in his game. He is what he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with most of that. I really like his cuts. His cuts have absolute authority to them. Good vision, good patience. Has some moves, has some agility, has some ability to be elusive, some improvisational skills as well. Top speed. I know he didn't run at the 40 at the combine, but his top speed is pretty good, as near as I can tell based on the tape.
4.45 guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is a little bit small, I think, so you can't give him a big workload. You got to be judicial with how you use him. He's not really going to be useful on third down. I think that's going to hurt a little bit. He's not a receiver or a blocker. And I think he's got a track record of fumbling. I can't remember how many exactly, but he does fumble a little bit. So a little bit of concern there. I don't know if he's a fit for Kubiak's scheme. I don't know if he's an outside zone guy. I feel like he's more of an inside zone guy. But regardless, I think he'll be very good in that role. So I'm actually going to bump him down to like the early fourth personally, because I don't like the fact that he's not going to provide value on third down.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that he'll be very good in his role when he gets to the NFL.
I think that's all valid. I mean, the inside-outside zone and stuff especially does he have the speed to get on the outside? They did a lot of the read option game with him out of shotgun predominantly there. A lot of these backs are that way a little bit, and it makes it harder to know that stuff for sure, especially if you don't have the 40 testing time you can lean back on to say, well, he does have that burst. He does have that speed.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's actually it for the third round projected guys. So we've got 7 guys projected to go in the top 100 this year. Pretty good. We've had some years recently where there have been like 2 or 3 running backs going in the top 100, partially driven by the level of talent, partially driven by the devaluing of the position. So this year, the running backs mean business.
They do. And I would say, Brendan, I think if I got a hot take on this draft when it comes to the third round specifically, I think you're going to see a very heavy run of running backs in the third round, which will give Seattle a very great opportunity in that third round to have players land on their doorstep with the 2 third-round picks late that they didn't think would be there. because I do think in the third round, I think a Jeanty goes 1. I think Henderson, Hampton go in the 2. But then I think there's a big collection of these guys where we see the run in the third round, where if we saw 7, 8 guys even in the third round taken at the running back position, it would not surprise me necessarily.
Right. Some of these projected fourth round guys could easily creep up. Once you get that late in the draft, really the projections means very little. They're just a very general guideline. But let's go ahead and go on down to some of the guys that might be going around that fourth round area. Starting with, let's go with DJ Giddens. DJ Giddens of the Kansas State Wildcats. A lot of Wildcats out there, by the way. I read somewhere that it was like the most common high school sports team name. So
yeah, that is a pretty. I've seen a lot of those ones. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I feel like Kansas State is typically known for their Mighty Mouse type running backs, but this guy not so much. He's actually got about average size, 212 pounds, 6 feet tall. Tested really well, actually. Very explosive, good speed. How do you think DJ Giddens transitions to the NFL this year?
I think in general terms, I'm going to be higher on him than maybe most people looking at this particular back. He'd be one of my more kind of just favorite backs of the draft, regardless of the round of where you're taking him. I do like Dylan Sampson, have him in the third round. So shifty, so much shake. I don't know if there's another running back in this draft that's got a better, more efficient juke move in the open field. You know, you have sometimes your Allen Iverson crossover guys with the juke where you're going to go way out here and then you're going to come back this way. With him, it's just real tight. It's real efficient, and he's able to just get freed up just in an instant off the back of it because it is so quick and efficient in that way. Got the speed, got the juice. I think he's got just a ton of shimmy and shake on him. Just absorbs contact and keeps going. He's going to extend every run to me to the ultimate of what he can get. You block this, he'll get you more there. You get penetration in the backfield. Talking about a guy like Caleb Johnson who gets destroyed in the backfield if there's any penetration. This is a guy that's going to be able to get away in the backfield and still go out there and go, make a play down the football field. I think he's being slept on a little bit. I think he's a little bit of a cross to me between a Le'Veon Bell and a Reggie Bush, but not as good as either. Not with the upper end of those two guys, but there's still so many flavors of that to his game. And I think he's been a little bit underrated in this draft.
Okay. All right. I like him too. I like his vision. I like his patience. He really knows how to follow his blockers and wait for the play to develop. Really good at seeing things develop in front of him and putting himself in position to use the lanes before they open up. He's got that Sean Alexander vision a little bit. Got good ball security as well. Doesn't drop passes, doesn't fumble. And he's, like you said, capable of shaking free of traffic. He's evasive. He's got moves. I don't think he's a particularly notable third down player. He's an okay receiver, and he doesn't have very good pass protection. Doesn't run with a lot of power. Not that you would necessarily expect him to, but he does tend to go down on contact. And he doesn't have the top end speed on the field in my eye to convert his good plays into breakaway plays. His speed looked better at the combine than it does on the football field. We'll see if that ends up changing when we get to the NFL here. So I like him a lot on early downs. I like his vision. I like his moves. I don't trust that he'll be able to do a lot on third down. So I do go early fourth on him, which is about where the aggregate has him. But yeah, I like him too. I think you like him a little more than me.
I will admit, and not just you on that one, I'm definitely a little bit higher, being beyond the aggregate board where what we're seeing on him. I just have a general feeling about him. There's something about watching him on tape that it just seemed to be a different, not gear, but just a different shade than some of the backs in this draft that really did appeal to me, that I think will translate to the NFL level really well.
All right, so let's see here. That is Giddens. Let's bump along here to another fourth rounder, Bhayshul Tuten. Bhayshul Tuten of the Virginia Tech Hokies. This is that usually every draft has one. The running back with just the absolutely out of this world breakaway speed that puts him on everyone's radar, kind of independent of anything else. Very small back, 5'9", 206 pounds, but the guy can fly. 4'3", 240, 149, 10-yard split, 40.5-inch vert, 10-foot, 10-inch broad, so crazy explosion in his hips. Do you think this list of traits will translate to the NFL game?
He's got a good chance, too. This is your Mike Mamula of running backs in this draft. Tightly wound, Explosive. The breakaway speed is something you feel on tape of him. I think there's some elements of Kenneth Walker and Aaron Jones to his game when watching him. He's mostly pure downhill, and he does lean into it, but occasionally gives you some cuts and moments of vision. But he wants to start that yard counter every carry. So he's trying to usually just not mess around, get downhill. He does run with above average contact balance. He's not Skattebo, he's not Jeanty in that way, but he can shrug off tackles. He uses more subtle moves than the joystick kind, so not DJ Giddens either, but he's got some subtle moves in the open field to free himself up. Acceleration makes him a complete handful in the screen game, especially. I mean, he is lethal there. Runs low behind his pads, gives him some extra power above his slight lack of weight, I thought. 3,300 yards, 48 touchdowns over 3 years, offers good kick return ability as well. A smidge of so-so punt returning, but he has 2 kick return touchdowns in his career, so I thought that stood out. He's okay as a pass catcher, I think, just okay hands in that side of it. I don't think he's an every down back, but can he be a weapon at this size, at that speed? Yeah, and the one thing I'll tell you about, too, that stands out in doing some research on him is he was dragging that leg around last year. So when you look at the tape, one thing you might be telling me, for instance, is, well, the testing times don't see what I saw in the tape with him last year. You watch last year, he's got a brace on that knee. And if you watch his running, it reminded me at times of Kurt Warner back in the 80s after his torn ACL, where he was just dragging that leg along on some of his carries. And then he gets healthy, gets in the offseason, goes test, and then the testing times blow up. That's the real key, I think, with him on that one, is don't get lost in the fact that he was a little injured there. So you're not seeing that quite, juice that is really there. It's just that he was fighting through it. He's just, I'll be a tough soldier about it.
This guy had 23 catches for 81 yards last year, which is an absolute anomaly. You will almost never see that in the NFL or college. So I think that maybe speaks to his inability to break away the way that he normally would be able to.
Yeah, you could just feel, and you can see some players that's like this, where they're dragging that leg at times, and he was dragging his, and he still was at 1,300 yards last year, so I think he's still productive as a player. It's just that take that into account and then utilize that in the projection. I mean, maybe the injury concerns are there with him long term, but you're going to get a better player than even what you saw last year from him on tape, and the testing times are not what you saw from him on tape; they're better. You'll get a better, faster player, in my opinion, at the pro level than what you saw on that tape last year, which doesn't push him up to like third round to me. You're right about into that fourth round kind of aggregate spot, but it does hardly put him right in the middle of the fourth round for me.
Yeah, so I have elusive, unpredictable in space, converts his speed into power really well to finish a run strong, and the kickoff return stuff is legit. I think that he'll be a good kick returner. And that has its own value, as we've learned the hard way. I think that would be great.
Well, especially the rule changes, Brendan. We haven't talked about it, but the rule changes are going to be a big impact on this with a 35-yard line on, that's going to drive more kickoffs. So having a guy like this is that much bigger.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it. I actually like that. I like the fact that we're going to try to get more kickoffs in the game. I know too. A lot of people are complaining about it, and I understand why on the surface it looks like an attempt to cripple defenses and help offenses. But I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just trying to motivate teams to actually allow kickoffs to be returned.
100% agree with you. And I think that what gets lost in this a little bit is the fact that what NFL has done is they diminished the kickoff through so many years of, can't hold hands anymore in the kickoff. Now we have guys that got to run to this spot. You have to stay standing before you get to this thing. So you've taken the kickoff and you've really removed it. And now you don't have to defend it as well anymore. Now you don't have to have it as an element of usefulness in your game as an advantage you can use on the field. It just becomes an automatic play. I hate automatic plays in the NFL. I want every play to count. I want every play to matter. And so everybody gets caught up on this being pro offense, I think, Brendan, but they're also doing that, aren't they, from the standpoint of saying, well, it's pro offense because you're thinking teams are just going to kick it in the back of the end zone and to have them down it. Well, what we should really be thinking of is we have to go down there and defend this now. We're going to kick it off at the 1. We're going to drop it at the 1 yard line. We're going to go down and defend it, and we're going to keep them inside the 30-yard line. And it speaks more to your lack of faith to me as a team and your ability to defend the kickoff more than it speaks to it being a pro offensive tool that can be used, in my opinion, because of that.
Right. I mean, maybe the greatest play in Seahawks franchise history was a kick return. So
there you go.
I'd love to bring that back. That'd be a lot of fun.
I think it's good for the sport. I think it's an awesome. I think it's a cool part of the game, and I don't think it should be completely neutralized like it's been.
He does fumble a little bit. Back to Tuten. Top end vision is not anything special yet. His vision isn't all there yet. Sometimes he's a backfield dancer. I feel like he's a little indecisive. And he does do the K9 thing where he tries to hit a home run a little too often.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he's so small, I don't know how long his career is going to be. But the talent here is so immense that I would not even mind taking him in the third round. I think third round would be okay here because there's such a high ceiling. Like this guy could just be absolutely unfair at the next level.
Can't teach speed with his level of kind of tenaciousness and how he runs the ball. And agree with you on the dance stuff. That's that Walker comparison comes into me with the good and the bad with him on that side of it. But I agree with you. I have him in the fourth. Could see him going into a late third round place of things, and a guy that you just fit into a role, give him the 10 to 13 touches a game, and he's going to be very effective with those touches. Will work too with this speed and this outside zone type of scheme if you were looking in for the Hawks, where, yeah, he can get to the edges. He can get to that spot and get there quickly.
Oh, yeah. All right. Moving along here, again, still in the fourth round range of things according to the aggregate. Damien Martinez of the Miami Hurricanes. Pretty big as far as running backs go, decent size, passable testing numbers, but we are getting now down into the territory where these guys aren't quite as freaky of an athlete. He ran a 4.5 40, 35-inch vert, a little more, normalized. Been pretty productive on Miami the last couple years, but the NFL is a different beast. How will Damien Martinez make the jump in your estimation?
I think Damien Martinez is very similar to a James Conner. I'd call him James Conner light a little bit. I don't think he's going to be quite the back Conner was, but I think that there's a lot of similarities. And when you look at those testing numbers, let's not also undersell the fact, guys doing around 225, 230 pounds. He's a lot more heavier than many of the backs that we're getting in here. And he is a pure power back with that upright running style that reminds me of James Conner, where it's usually the power guys can't be upright. They got to be low and behind their pads, and they make it work at that size somehow or another. He is just really hard to bring down. He has the heft to always be falling forward on tackles. So you feel that weight on contact where he's always leaning forward, always getting an extra couple of yards after the tackle. He is a build-up speed guy with limited speed. So, both build up and then doesn't have necessarily a lot of top end there. I think he's more of a 4.6-ish guy in how he plays. There is some agility challenge issues, but he counters that with really good footwork. Part of what Conner does as well is that it's stiff hips, but the footwork, frees him up and gets him around that. Good wiggle through the hole to shake linebackers in tight spaces and extend runs, strong vision and patience, a really good feel for where he needs to attack the hole and where he needs to let the cake bake. He uses efficient, sharp cuts combined with that plus vision in the open field to extend the runs. Other than that, a little pitter-patter, juke dance is what he does. He's getting upfield. He's going to hammer anyone in his way. So here and there, a little bit of those jukes, but he's another guy that's not going to really try to mess around. He knows what he is. He knows he's that hammer. Not always the prettiest of running styles, Brendan, but it is effective. And his power is good, but not elite. So it's not next level game-changing type. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with two different programs, I think, which is notable. But a very unique runner in this draft, Brendan, where there's not a lot of power guys, and especially not a lot of power guys at his size. That true, I think he plays 230 on game day.
You think he slimmed down for the combine?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I found him to be just a little bit uninspired personally as I looked at him. I like his tempo that he runs with. He's got he can kind of lull a defender to sleep with his tempo almost. He's good at cutting back and finding the lane. I like his vision. I like his reads. I like his ability to see where the play is going and react to it appropriately. I think he's a decent safety valve in the passing game, but he's not really a skilled receiver or a pass protector. So very limited third down value. He has good power, but like you said, I don't think it's great power necessarily. Doesn't have the breakaway speed. Doesn't have the ability to turn a good play into a great play. Everything just seems to happen kind of slower with him. Everything's just kind of more gradual rather than sharp and rapid, which sometimes works, right? Sometimes you want to give time for your blockers to develop. But I don't know. I found him a little bit forgettable. I like his power. I just feel like, he's not offering anything on third down. He's not really offering any kind of a breakaway threat. So I kind of went more early fifth round with him. I just kind of found him to be a little uninspired personally.
Yeah, and that's where for me the fifth round's the right place to be. So we go at James Conner. Where's James Conner originally drafted by the Steelers? Where's he taken? Fifth round.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't remember.
No, you're in the right spot on that. So that's to me perfectly in the suitable spot. I just do that 4th round thing where I trust the comp to Connor, and I just said to myself, well, if I trusted the comp to Connor and Connor's been this, and Connor was a guy slept on coming out of the draft where it wasn't, and I know he had the cancer thing which affected a little bit, but it wasn't as much the NFL teams went, oh yeah, this guy will be a real productive back. Let's go grab him, where that elevates him maybe a little bit of that extra round because I feel the comp is true. But I think that all the things that you said about him there are very fair and certainly sit in alignment to what I see from him as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. We're still in the 4th round here with the UCF RJ Harvey Jr. UCF, I think they're the Golden Knights or something, or the some kind of knight.
Scarlet Knights?
No, Scarlet Knights is Rutgers.
Okay.
They're the something Knights.
Everybody's Knights or Wildcats, Brendan.
Yeah, it's all the way down. Wildcats can't get upset with a name, right? They're Wildcats. They don't know what's going on.
No, they don't.
Knights, there are no more Knights anymore, right?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. So very small, 5'8", another one of these bowling ball guys, 205 pounds. Really fast, had a 4.4 40. Good explosion with his jumps, very explosive hips. And top end production, man. We're talking 3,500 yards over the last 2 seasons for UCF. Really good production.
43 total touchdowns.
Yeah. So he's putting up the numbers, but how's it going to come together in the NFL?
I look at the kind of combination between a DeAndre Swift and a Jerome Ford. A little bit of a combo between those guys. Explosive, change of direction artist. He can cut on a dime and possesses strong vision to make the most of that. He will tend to want to be a little too patient, knowing his quicks can get him to a lot of different possible avenues. Filthy open field dead leg move. I mean, just absolutely filthy. Just loses guys with that dead leg all the time. Strong juke moves as well with that plus vision. Captain on the team for the past season, so bring a little bit of leadership, good quickness that sometimes looks close to elite, but he can be caught from behind in the open field. One of the reasons that I do believe, Brendan, that he's more of a 4.5 guy than is tested 4.4. I don't quite see him that sort of level of speed on the open field to me. A little bit of a lighter back. He's not pushing any piles with much power. Out of the backfield, I think that he's just okay. There's not going to be a lot of receiving routes out there. He's just going to kind of take dump offs. He's giving you almost nothing to me as a pass blocker. I do like a lot of how deep behind the pocket of his running style he can be, is that he's very low to the ground and he really stays behind those pads, and he can just kind of hunker in there and really be able to then change direction off how low he hunkers into the ground. But again, sometimes it can get him a little bit caught up too, where he's a little too patient, a little bit too waiting for that hole rather than just being get after it, too deliberate, I suppose. But I 4th round, middle 4th round guy. He's kind of fun, but yeah, there's some limitations there too, along with the bus. I just don't think he's that fast. Did you feel like he's 4.4 watching him on tape?
I think his top end speed's good. Maybe not quite 4.4, but I think it's good. I think it works. Really hard to get to the ground because he's so short and willing to play physically. He's able to survive big hits and keep going. Quick cuts from hole to hole as the play develops. I just don't think he's very elusive, which is disappointing because he is very explosive with his hips. I think he could stand to be a little bit more of an improviser. His vision is not great. He's kind of a one-track player, which is a lot harder to get away with when you're 205 pounds instead of 225. He, again, is kind of like that runaway freight train. 3rd down value is also kind of dubious because he's not a good blocker. So I don't know what he's going to be able to do there. So I'd go early 4th. I'd go a little bit higher than you, but basically the same idea. I think that there is some interesting potential here because he's so damn explosive, but I think that he's kind of a very straightforward and simple player. He just gets the ball and he goes. And I want to see those traits translate to on the field stuff more.
Yeah, I just think he's a little light and for the running style he has, and not quite. He appears very elusive. I just don't know if that elusiveness is going to quite translate at the next level the same way.
Okay, so that is RJ Harvey, and that actually takes us basically to the end of the 4th round projections. Again, those projections shift constantly. They probably moved in the last 20 minutes, if we're being honest. But now we're kind of getting down to more like that 5th round range of player, according to the projections. Now, we may not totally agree with that. We may find ourselves thinking a little bit differently of these players. So let's take a look here and see what light we can shine on some of these final prospects, like Jaydon Blue of the Texas Longhorns, another Texas player in the draft. They're producing a lot lately. And I'll tell you, this one's pretty darn fun. He's another very much undersized running back with good speed and not a lot of production in college. He had one good year, really, and you're betting a lot on that one good year, but that comes with some upside too, right? Not a lot of mileage on him. So how do you balance it all out with Jaydon Blue as a player?
Yeah, he's fun. I think he's a little bit of a touch guy, not a bell cow, even a number two, just a guy you kind of float through there. Maybe potentially could become kind of your third downish back guy with a little bit of touches mixed in between, and where he sits too. 4.38, 1.52. The testing times are really good, but 5'9", 196. So very, very light as well. And he is a light and speedy back. He's got some echoes to him of James Cook. I wouldn't put that as the comp to him though, Brendan. As Cook went in the second round, he's not as good as Cook. Just nice feet, and like Cook, he's kind of a rhythm runner, like Dalvin Cook, James Cook's brother. They were kind of rhythm runners, where the feet are always kind of going boom, boom. You always feel like they're almost like a drummer, where they're on beat and they're just waiting to go through their fill a little bit.
I like that.
Yeah, it's fun. It works. It's great. I think he did play lighter than his listed combine weight. You said earlier. Like Damien lost weight to go. This is one of those rare guys I think probably gained weight going to the combine.
He did the Bryce Young.
Yeah. I think he's more of a 190, 185 guy in the field. Arm tackles can absolutely bring him down. He does run tough. He can fight through tackles, but for the most part, they're going to bring him down. He's got the home run hitting speed. That part shows up on the field and shows out in a big way. Above average hands out of the backfield. Usually effective at finding yards after the catch. Even ate up quite a few snaps out of the slot. So, one of your modern runners, this is a little bit of you miss out on Trayvon Henderson as a team. You want to go find a guy that's got kind of close to that skill set when he brings. We go 4th, 5th round, get him Jaydon Blue as a guy that can do a lot of that similar kind of stuff to him. So a fun back, use him in the right way, limit a little bit of the touches and how you use him, but he'll be effective in those limited touches.
Yeah, I kind of agree with it. I like his moves to work through traffic. I like his elusiveness. The receiver stuff is legit too. He can line up in the slot. He's got route running ability out of the backfield. He's one of the guys in this draft that's going to be good on like wheel routes and like the Texas route, which is always my favorite. I love the Texas route.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Has the speed to break away from defenders in space and house it from 60 yards out. The vision and awareness isn't totally there yet. Maybe that's understandable because he is young and doesn't have a lot of college reps on him. Maybe that's something that'll come. Only 1 year of real production, like I said, not very good in picking up blitzes. I think he does have a few too many drops and fumbles, so ball security is an issue with him. And he does kind of crumple. When he gets contacted, he just goes down. Yeah. It's over very quickly with him. So he's a little bit of a scat back, plenty to offer as a receiving threat who can break off big plays. So I'd go 4th rounder. I'd say 4th round is about right. Somewhere in the middle of round 4 feels good with him for me.
Yeah. You're getting that the dynamic touch artist. Scat back's great way of putting it too, but just a dynamic touch artist is got value in this NFL now. It's not about finding just one running back, but getting a collection of guys that you can kind of sift through there to give you some playmaking ability and keep you efficient on those touches like they will be. High yard per carry average, really good pass catcher and efficient pass catcher out of the backfield. Offenses need these kind of guys.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this next one is actually really intriguing to me personally. This one's actually unique. And, well, we see this every now and then. It's the receiver that gets moved to running back, and he's got all those unique skill sets that most other running backs don't have. This is Brashard Smith of the SMU Mustangs. Certainly very small for a running back, 194 pounds, but he's got great straight line speed, 4.39. Not necessarily great testing numbers otherwise, but he brings something to the table that I don't think any other running back in this class does. So how do you feel about the fit overall?
I've got a higher grade on him than where the aggregate board's going to be. To your point on looking at this guy, I think he's another potential diamond dug out early in this Cartier running back class, where just you not at the forefront, but you just suddenly dig out. Oh, there's another diamond over here. Oh wow, I thought we had them all taken care of over here. There's one still left over here. Explosive and fast, but that's not even the best thing about him, which is the razor sharp cutting ability. Up until this year in transferring to SMU, he had been playing wide receiver. So you have this guy with his first year of playing running back. First year. And he's giving you this kind of skill and ability. Moved to running back, cooked up 1,300 yards, 5.7 yard per carry average. Then also had the best year of his career in the receiving department, Brendan. So receiver before this has his best year receiving as a running back with 39 receptions, 327 yards. You really can feel the former receiver aspects to him when he's coming out of the backfield and his ability to catch the ball away from his body and just natural hands that you just feel with him getting out there. He can run behind his pads. He can change up his pace. In particular, he drives edges crazy, but pushing their outside shoulder with his speed, stretching them out wide by doing so, and then slashing back inside and busting off a big play. And this is one of the reasons I've raised him up on my board as far as a fit for the Hawks, even though not need, just fit, how good I trust in the talent. So he gets to the outside zone runs. Outside zone runs, you want the power edges. What the power edges supposed to do, they're supposed to keep their outside shoulder clear, route everything inside. But what he's doing with that, Brendan, is he's stretching those edges out, stretch them out to where they're really trying to protect too much to their outside shoulder. And then he can force it back on inside. And then there's just a gaping hole in there and he can bust off a big play off the back of it. You're not going to ask him to do any sort of big back stuff. He's going to go down on first contact because he's not a big guy, but he does fall forward. His hesitation, juke, and spin moves are lit and legit, in my opinion. I'm really good juke, really, really good hezzy. There are question marks here because you're only getting the 1 year production at SMU. However, this is not exactly a new model at running back. We've got these kind of guys now, even in this draft, with a couple of other guys, including Trayvon Henderson, in my opinion, and that this is a little bit of the new style. And so I am putting in my grade a little bit of Brendan trying to be a little bit at the forefront here, and that this new style of guy is gaining more value than ever before. But the fact that he did that in his first year and that he was that good that first year, took to it so naturally, he's got me kind of hyped in that way for him, even into the late third round.
Yeah, I put him in my early fourth, so we're very close. I love his ability to improvise. I love his ability to move unpredictably. He does not play on a track. He's very, very elusive. Good vision, which you wouldn't expect for a guy who just moved to running back, right? He's got legitimate running back vision. Should be also valuable on special teams as well, I think.
Kick return too. That guy kick return, let him go. Kick returner all day. Let that guy go.
Yeah. Now you might have to be careful with him. We've done this before, right? CJ Procise was like this, right? He was great for the 3 games we actually got him for, right? So, don't let him get hit too much. Don't overwork him. He's, sub 195. Be careful. Doesn't have a lot of acceleration. His top speed, it takes a while to get up there. He's not really a blocker either, so I don't know how that's going to work. But he's a lot of fun. You got to use him in the right way. It's going to be up to your play caller. It's going to be up to your offensive designer. It's going to be up to your coaching staff to use this guy the right way. But I think he could be a lot of fun. I'll take him in the early 4th round, and I'll trust my staff to make it work.
I will too. I think even if you're just allotting these guys into being just touch guys, think about 10 to 12 touches a game. Right? Can I get this guy effective on 10 to 12 touches? Will this help our offense out if I give him 10 to 12 touches? Are we more explosive? Are we going to put more points on the board? Allotting this guy 1/8 of our touches over the course of a game for an offense. And I think you will with a guy like this. I think he'll be able to be, even if it's in a very specified role where he's a fly sweep guy and you're those manufacturing those runs and getting to the edges, still think he could be effective and give you a lot for that. Maybe a guy's only get you 750 yards receiving in a season, right, Brendan? But it's only on the back of 120 carries or something.
Right. Yeah. That's the modern NFL now, right? The bell cow's dead.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this next one, Joquavius Marks, and he goes by
Woody.
Yeah. He goes by Woody. That's what you do when your first name is Joquavius.
Yes, sir.
You pick literally anything other than Joquavius to go by. That's probably a very good idea.
That's a lot of name. That's definitely Key and Peele sketch right there.
Oh yeah, that's Key and Peele all day. So USC Trojan, 24 years old. Got some decent size, little bit smaller than average, but not critically so. Tested about average across the board, 52nd, 55th, 56th percentile, that kind of stuff. We're now kind of bumping on down to about the 6th round on the aggregate big board. That's about where he's projected to go at the moment. So are you feeling a little bit better about Marks when he gets to the NFL than the aggregate?
I'm late 4th on him. Even he's my last guy in the 4th round. So even into the high 5th round range, I think I've got him more in kind of that place. Small and sudden. I think he'll be another guy that's going to be more of a touch guy than looking at him as any kind of thing close to a workhorse. I do think he'll probably be specializing as mainly a 3rd down back at the next level in my outlook of him. Works off stop and start combined with his vision to bust off his runs. Mainly got most of his carries from shotgun. It's a little bit back to that 3rd down back stuff rather than, having him quarterback under center going to outside zone. I think just you want him out of shotgun, read option looks, RPO kind of stuff. I did think he was going to run right around the mid 4.4s. I don't know where was his testing time at. That was my guess on him, Brendan. Do we have a 40 on him? We didn't. Oh, 4.5.
Yeah.
So yeah,
4.54. So average.
I thought low 4.4s on the field. So I think he's actually faster than his tested times. Over 260 catches in his college career. Part of why I see him as a guy that goes down and becomes more of that 3rd down back. Smooth hands where you can feel how comfortable he is, even when he runs flat route throws where, he just reels in the ball like a magnet. Bam, the ball's in his hands. Bam, he's upfield. It's all very fluid for him where a lot of those running backs, they have to almost kind of catch it and then get it in their hand and they can go up the field there. Him, it's just really easy. I like the way he run. I just don't think he's going to break very many tackles, no doubting how elusive he is. I just think I kept looking at him just thinking, think this guy just fits into more of a 3rd down role. I can't ever see him being a 1 or a 2 on any team.
Yeah, I like him as a 3rd down back as well, although I don't think he's got the strength to block. I don't think he's going to be able to be a great blocking back, but great receiver. He has good patience, letting a play develop before he guns it. Doesn't fumble, good vision, ability to cut and go is going to be great. I think he'd be great in a Shanahan offense, just the one cut and go stuff. And he's got some wiggle in the open field to make tacklers miss as well. Not a lot of power. Doesn't have the top end speed or acceleration to break away. And he is already a little bit on the older side. He's going to be 24 when the season starts, so less room to develop. But I think there's a good deal that he offers here. I'd go 5th round on him. I'm a little bit lower than you are, but same idea. I think
I'll go to 5th round by the time we get to game day with it. There's just too many good backs on it, and the more I think about it with it, there's not enough that's showy about his game to stand out to me on that way, especially when we're trying to consider the upside of him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got a couple more guys left here. This next one, another kind of fun name here, LeQuint Allen Jr. of Syracuse. LeQuint Allen. Tall back, very atypical, 6 feet tall, 204 pounds. So very lean. Definitely not what you typically see with a running back. Projected to be a 7th round pick on the aggregate as of last time I checked. Good production the last couple of years for Syracuse. 25 touchdowns. You're looking at, close to 3,000 yards, actually. Good vision, good awareness. Do you think LeQuint Allen Jr. has a home in the NFL?
I do. Another one of my backs that, regardless of rounds, just one of my favorite backs in the draft for what he brings. A bundle of energy, arms, legs, and athleticism. Only 20 years old. So he has some of that youthful gangliness to him when you watch him move, where it's like, it's going to come together more for this guy. You're not looking at the finished product of him physically from what he's going to be down the road. It's a little bit like Dylan Sampson in that way. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. A weapon out of the backfield, an absolute weapon out of the backfield, particularly running the fake to the flat and then back up to the slant. So starts out here and then he puts his foot in the turf and he comes back on a slant. A lot of times you see those on the wheel route, but with him, he brings it back to a slant, which just shows some of his ability to really cut on a dime and be able to be a really good route runner when he's getting out of the backfield in that way. Another guy like some of these other guys we talked about in this draft, like the Henderson type, where you can use him in a variety of different fashions, get him the ball, let him work as a receiver out in space against a linebacker, and he's going to smoke those kind of guys. I think he's explosively quick. I do think he's lacking some long speed, but he's got some real bounce and he's got some sudden jump cuts, above average as his vision, runs really hard for being so light, rarely goes down easy, and he will routinely lower his head and dish out punishment at the end of his runs. Very close to elite hands for the position, in my opinion. And again, these are the kind of backs that I think are the hottest thing right now. If we're able to get this guy in the 6th, 7th round and flip him out for a whole Lonnie, I'm going to do that all day, in my opinion, on it, because he provides you a skill set then to the position you don't really have on this team right now, in my opinion. And I'm going to trust in the fact that, much like Sampson, this guy grows into his grown man strength, that you're going to even get better from him physically than what he is right now.
Yeah, he's got the frame to put on weight, so you got to like his odds there. Yeah, I like his vision. I think he's going to be a great 3rd down back in both areas. He's a good receiver, and I think he can block. Maybe it'll get better at it too when he adds strength. Good. He cuts and goes with real authority. He's sharp and quick in the way that he cuts. He's also got some special teams coverage value. I know he was doing that at Syracuse a little bit, so that's going to help. Goes down kind of easy when you get your hands on him. Admittedly, he doesn't fall forward through contact very much. Doesn't have that breakaway speed that you would like to have, and he doesn't have tremendous imagination in the open field. He is kind of a one cut and go back, like the old Denver back. But hey, those guys have been very good in this league, so there's nothing wrong with that. So his 3rd down back value, I think, alone makes him valuable. So I'd go early 5th round. I think he's going to be really good on 3rd down, and I'd say that's worth an early 5th round pick all day.
Him and Giddens are just the two guys that I have a real fondness for in general terms that I can't even fully, elaborate toward you, and just it's almost a non-verbal thing that I like with both those two. That just something about the two jumps out to me on with those two skill sets. I think they're just going to be really good pros.
Mm-hmm. All right, one more guy on your list. One more guy. This is the last guy that was you sent me. Jordan James of the Oregon Ducks, another 21-year-old, small, definitely one of these Mighty Mouse backs. Not super small, but small-ish. Didn't test great. 40 time was okay, 4.55. The aggregate actually has him all the way down in the back of the 7th round, which even I don't agree with that. But what do you see with Jordan James?
Tough inside runner, willing to finish runs like a car crash. Kind of got a comp on him of like a J.K. Dobbins, former Ohio State kid out there at the Chargers. I think he runs really well behind his pads and usually tries to get downhill fast. He does possess some change of direction to bounce outside, but not pure a change of direction guy. Strong stiff arm and plus balance that allows him to feature his spin move at all times. So he can pull that thing out whenever he wants. He doesn't need to set it up, just like pushing a button on a controller. Just whenever he wants to push it, he can engage it, and the spin move works really well for him. I'd also give him a plus on contact balance. Burst is a little bit better than average, but speed looks average in general. He is a lighter back for his running style. I think this is a guy that probably watched a lot of Marshawn Lynch growing up and patterned a lot of his game on Marshawn Lynch. But you're missing 20 pounds of what Marshawn Lynch had, and I think that you can sometimes, sense that a little bit. This is where I have some trepidations about whether this can translate to the next level, because he does just lean on violence so heavily as a runner. But he's absolutely going to punish defenders. He's going to be hard to bring down, just runs as hard as you could want. He is kind of lost as a pass protector, average hands out of the backfield. And so I'm not giving you a lot there on that side of it, but be an early down back that you're looking to be kind of a grinder in there on that way.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a bowling ball. I like him in the open field. I think he's good on the catch and run stuff. I think his ability to catch and then go run after the catch are pretty good, even though he's not actually a great receiver. He drops the ball too much, I think. He does. I think he's got the enthusiasm for picking up blitzes, at least. I do appreciate that. I think he's got the right mindset. We'll see if it actually turns into actually quality pass protection down the line here. Gets a little impatient, gets a little overexcited, ends up kind of running up the backs of his blockers, I noticed. Doesn't have breakaway speed. His overall instincts, I think, are lacking a little bit. Although he's young, he can get better. But I would definitely be willing to give him a chance. So I'd go like 6th rounder. I can't really go higher than the 6th round personally. But I like him a little bit more than most people seem to.
I'd like there to be a little more burst from him at his weight. That's, I just think that you come in at that weight, you need a 205. I need to be a bit more than 1.6 as your 10-yard burst. And that's what you feel from on the field, where burst is as big as anything for a running back is speed. And if you're missing a bit of that, you're not getting the whole kind of at the timely nature of things at times. He's going to have to lean too much on the toughness and tenacity side of his running style, I think, as a pro.
All right. There's one more back I want to cover real quick here because this guy has a pretty high profile. He was very highly thought of a year ago, and 2024 was not great to him, but it's Ollie Gordon II, the Oklahoma State Cowboy. He was in contention for the Heisman a year ago. I think he was the rushing leader of the whole country. And there was some hype about him being a first-round pick at one point, and it's gone now. He's currently projected to be a fourth-round pick coming off a season where he barely went over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. I know you weren't a big fan, but tell me a little bit about your take on Ollie Gordon.
I call him the rumbling, stumbling divot maker. He's like Chris Berman back in the day, rumbling and stumbling, and then he's tearing turfs of dirt out when he's stumbling and always. But he weirdly, he's also that guy where he's doing that, Brendan, and you watch a football play and you're like, oh, he's gonna fall down, and the guy's stumbling, but he just kind of keeps going forward, even though it's like you're like he's about to fall down. It's like, oh, one more step, kind of keeps his feet going. Skattebo does a little bit of this too, where it's like they extend runs at times where it's just. It doesn't look pretty, but they make it happen, I guess is the way I would say it. Change of direction guy with a real nose for the end zone, 34 touchdowns over the past 2 seasons alone. His slow testing times do match to me his lack of burst and speed on the field. There is some first step quickness, and he can change direction in the blink of an eye. That helps to get him out of tackles often, but he has to really lean on that wholly. He is a loping, long strider, and he is not the most efficient mover of the position. There is a lot of wasted motion with this guy. A lot of the arms doing this and the legs flopping over here, where a lot of guys like a Judkins guy might be one of your most efficient runners of the ball. No wasted motion in this draft as far as when he takes the ball. Very capable as a pass catcher out of the backfield. Like you said, had a monster year in 23. Just this year, disappointing. Injuries were a part of it. He played pretty much all the games. It was just that there was the nick thing going on, just constantly nicked up by this or that throughout the course of this year.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think he's got size and power. I do give him some credit for that. He hits with a good thump, works through contact. His height, though, becomes kind of a problem. If he can't build up speed and you get contact on him, he's just going to crumple because he's so tall. You can get underneath him.
He'll run high too.
Yeah,
he'll really accentuate that with the high running style.
Yeah, not effective on outside runs, no speed, no burst, doesn't really make people miss that much. I think he's a good receiver and pass protector, so that's nice. And I like his vision, I like his instincts. I ended up putting him in the early 4th. I do still like him well enough. I have a fondness for his third down value, but it's not what we were hoping it would be before the season started.
Yeah, just not my flavor too. I can understand having him more elevated. I've got more 6th, 7th round grade on him to where I see him at, but I can completely understand it. It's a flavor thing for me with him, as I just didn't his running style just did not. I wasn't feeling it.
Okay, so there are other running backs in this draft, but they're guys that are mostly valued later. Guys, there's the Devin Neals of the world. There are the Trevor Etienne's of the world. We're not going to go too deep into any of that. I think we did a good job covering the interesting guys.
Yeah, I don't think that these later round guys are going to be able to do much. There's some potential there with them. Certainly a Rocket Sanders guy, for instance, who had finally a little bit of a better year, had been up and down through his college career, was a lot of production, but another high cut runner that can't really do the change of direction things. There's all these guys, I think, deeper down, and we'd have some deficiencies we could really point to where maybe they could be something, but there's a lot more of the likelihood that they're not going to be anything.
I kind of like Donovan Edwards. I'd say that he's undervalued a little bit. I'm not going crazy with it, but I like Donovan Edwards more.
The only problem I have there is he's a big play guy that ran a 4.7, and he's undersized.
I thought he ran a 4.44 at the combine.
Did he run a 4.4? Am I off? I could be misremembering.
That's what I had. Let me double check that, because that would be a very big difference.
I could be wrong on this too. I'm having a lot of guys that are running together now in my mind on this. So.
Yes, he ran a 4.44.
Oh, my bad.
1.51 10-yard split.
There we go. I take it back then. He's
okay.
He's fast. He's fast. No, but he's okay then. If he rested, I thought I saw the 4.6 for him. Man. Can't believe they're all starting to run together for me on that one, Brendan. But at least he give you the big play there with him. It's just with him, it's like seems to always be it's a big play or nothing with him out of Michigan.
Maybe it was the other Michigan back, Mullings or whatever.
Yeah, it might have been. I might be confusing with him a little bit.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I think that about puts a wrap on the show. So that's another position down, man. And thank you for doing this with me. A lot of fun.
Appreciate you as well, man. Love doing this stuff.
Yeah. And next show is going to be on the 8th, which is that is a Tuesday. And we're going to be moving on to another position here. And this one's maybe a little bit more spicy, arguably. Edge rusher is, I believe, our next planned position.
It's going to be a fun one to chop up. Another one where through every round you can we got to talk about where's the right place to grab these guys, because every round, like running back, it's one of the deeper positions and a lot of good guys to pick through and not as much a need either. So it's going to be one fun one to kind of figure out, where we sit with these guys and where they should go and which guys we want to pick where.
Yeah, I think that's a position where you can just kind of stack and stack and stack, and you're not going to regret your decisions that much.
I think to your point, we've got to be open in any round, including the first round, to going for that guy as long as value is driving the board, Brendan, because you're right. You've got Uchenna going into probably the last year of his deal, Moffitt in the last year of his rookie deal, only 2 years left on the Hall thing, and Dexter Lawrence is going to be a year in and year out kind of decision with that one.
I wish it was Dexter Lawrence. It's DeMarcus Lawrence.
I keep calling him Dexter Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence. Yeah. So too many names you start saying over and over. This stuff just all starts to blend together. But you do have a need there for it. There's an opening to go get a guy that can come in and be, part of that future at that point, especially in Moffitt and Hall that have been good players. But coming back to that point about difference makers, you go get a difference maker off the edge of this draft. That certainly could be a draw, I think, for McDonald and for Schneider.
Yep. And that's what we're all about, trying to keep an open mind about this stuff and trying to open ourselves up to any possibility to making this team as good as it can be.
Absolutely.
All right, man. So thank you for doing this with me. Thank you to everybody in the chat for hanging out with us today. We will be back in 5 days to talk about edge rushers. And we're going to be done with all these evaluations with plenty of time to spare. We're looking at like a week to spare, actually. So thank you to everybody who's on this ride with us. Brandon, have a great week, man.
Yeah, we're coming back 3 shows next week, folks. So I think we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Brendan, don't we?
Yeah, we are going back to back to back. So and we might be going 4 days in a row because I think we had to add on a show for the offensive line, but I can't remember what day that was. I could be wrong.
Well, strap in, folks. You're getting a lot of draft coverage here, so we're hooking up this next week for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, so 3 weeks away, people. We are 3 weeks away from figuring stuff out. We are 3 weeks away from learning a lot of great information about the direction of the NFL past 2024. So keep on tuning in, keep on watching, and don't forget, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.